GTA residents are being told to stay alert for rapidly changing conditions as severe thunderstorms sweep through the region, and a tornado watch has also been issued.
Plus, an argument on a TTC bus escalates to a stabbing. More on the latest violent altercation coming up.
And Canada's first Shake Shack location has officially opened right here in Toronto. We'll take you live to the long queues at Yonge and Dundas in moments.
This is Live at 5. Hello, I'm Lindsay Biscaya.
And I'm Lena Latafat. Thank you for joining us. We begin with the weather tonight. There is active weather in parts of the province today, including tornado watches for parts of the GTA.
Yeah, Environment Canada says conditions are favorable for severe thunderstorms into this evening. Heavy rain, hail, and high winds are possible, and tornado watches are posted for Caledon, Northern York, and Northern Durham, as well as Dufferin County, Barrie, Collingwood, Orillia, Muskoka, and Peterborough. Environment Canada meteorologist Gerald Chang is urging residents to have a plan in place as this tornado watch remains in effect this evening.
We're watching North York region, or the north side of York region, really Newmarket, Aurora, and up towards south of Georgian Bay and east towards Algonquin. We know that a lot of people are doing outdoor activities. Children are still in school, but just be careful when you are doing outdoor work or when you are outside. If the weather deteriorates, you need to seek shelter right away. Don't wait for the weather alert. As well, have a plan in place.
Pearson Airport says it's monitoring a band of potentially strong thunderstorms that could directly impact its operations at around 7 o'clock tonight. Pearson Airport also says crews are currently preparing the airport to make sure impacts to flights are as minimal as possible.
This could be a sustained period of lightning at the airport, and safety is our number one priority. So when there is lightning within a 5-kilometer radius of the airport, we need to pull our employees off the airfield so that they're not in any danger. But what this does is causes a number of delays and potentially cancellations because we don't have airline workers to bring aircraft into the gate, push them back from the gate. We won't have people out on the apron to unload bags or put bags onto the aircraft. So we get into a situation where flights can't push back, flights can't come up to the gate because of these delays.
And 2 15-year-old boys are facing charges after an argument on a TTC bus in the West End escalated into a stabbing. It happened around 6 o'clock last night at Park Lawn Road and Barrie Road, that's west of Royal York. Police responded to reports of a stabbing following an altercation. When officers arrived, they located one of the boys with a stab wound. He was taken to hospital and was later placed in custody. The second boy left the scene but was later located by officers. He was transported to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Police say the bus operator suffered minor injuries when one of the teens fled.
And for more on this, we are joined live by CP24's crime analyst Steve Ryan for a closer look at this story. So, Steve, yet another violent incident on the TTC. Does it look as though at this point this could have been random, or do you think these two people were known to each other? And that's a question everybody asks anytime something happens out in the public. And based on the media release that was just issued by the Toronto Police, I would suggest that it is an isolated incident. It sounds as if one of the 15-year-olds got on the bus, went right to the back of the bus where there was another 15-year-old, pulled out a knife and began the assault.
And what about a woman that was injured, Steve? What are you learning about that?
So putting the pieces together after reading this press release, it sounds as though the woman was the TTC operator, and it just reminds us all again what the TTC says all the time about how dangerous it is for their men and women who are out there driving these buses and these subways, because they're right in the thick of things when it comes to, these crimes that are committed on TTC property. And 2, 15-year-old boys arrested in this situation. Is that shocking at all to you at this point? No, it's not shocking to me. But what's of interest is that so both boys are charged with assault with a weapon. The one boy is charged with carrying a concealed weapon. So that would be the boy that got on the bus, that went to the back of the bus. He's also charged with failing to comply with a release order. Certainly suggests that he was on some sort of recognizance for other criminal charges. out on a bail of some sort and then committed another criminal offense.
And Steve, we've been talking about how frightening this would be for anybody on board that bus.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. It's often overlooked when witnesses witness a violent crime, especially out in public. So there are services in place if people on the bus are feeling disturbed by what has happened. They can contact the Toronto Police because they are witnesses, of course, and they can be referred to victim services who can refer them to other social agencies.
Okay. Well, scary stuff. Okay, that's CP24's crime analyst Steve Ryan joining us live. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Steve. It's 5:05 now, 30 degrees out there. Feeling more like 35 in the city. It is a hot one. Let's get a check on that evening commute with traffic specialist Adwa and CIA Adwa.
Yeah, Lena, it is a scorcher out there. So if you are making your way out, you're definitely going to want to make sure your air conditioning is working in your car because it's going to take you a while to get to where you need to be this afternoon. You're running into problems on the eastbound 401 in the collectors just past Avenue Road. It looks like the two center lanes at this point are blocked with this collision, again, impeding and slowing down your commute. Further east on the 401, also in the collectors, this time in Leslie, stalled vehicle does have the left lane blocked. Looks like a collision just about to clear. This is the southbound 427 in the collectors, south of the 401, just the last vehicle that does have the left lane blocked. And a tough go Toronto bound on the QEW. Major delays approaching Grays Road out to Eastport. That is where you're running into a collision on the Toronto bound QEW. Long-standing, it's been there in the right lane. On city streets, we have an ongoing collision on Dundas and Manning. I'll send it back to you.
This CP24 traffic report is brought to you by 407 ETR. Enjoy the journey with a stress-free commute.
Adwa, thanks so much. Police have released more information on the investigation into a fatal stabbing at an Etobicoke home earlier this year.
Yeah, it happened in the Eglinton and Kipling area just after 2 p.m. on April 18th. When officers arrived, they found an elderly male victim with injuries, and he was later pronounced dead. The suspect was arrested at the scene. Today, police have identified the victim as 90-year-old Antonio Alonzi. Investigators also announced that 32-year-old Massimo Alonzi is facing second-degree murder charges. Police say the suspect is the grandson of the victim, and the motive behind that fatal stabbing is still under investigation.
To Halton Region now, where a registered massage therapist in Milton is facing a charge of sexual assault. Halton police arrested 37-year-old Sithinderpal Singh Gill of Brampton. He's also known to clients as Joey. A woman told police she was sexually assaulted during a recent massage at Massage Addict on Louis Saint Laurent Avenue in Milton. Investigators believe there could be more victims, and they say the accused has worked at other massage studios in Halton, Peel, and York, in addition to seeing clients at his home in Brampton. And a warning from police after 3 people died from suspected overdoses in the same area of the city within days of each other. Police say they responded to 4 overdose calls in the area of Dufferin and Eglinton between Sunday and Tuesday. 4 people had consumed a quantity of an unknown narcotic, which police suspect is an opioid. 3 of them later died. Police fear there may be more of the drug on the streets, and so they're reminding those who use drugs to not take them alone and be extremely cautious.
The number of deaths and overdose deaths has not been slowing down in the city of Toronto, and perhaps the division in that area wanted people to be alert, although Dufferin and Eglinton is a neighborhood that historically has had a number of overdoses and overdose deaths. Could be the batch that's there. It could also be the fact that that neighborhood in particular doesn't have a lot of services. There isn't a supervised consumption site for anyone to go to. There isn't drug checking in that neighborhood. So everything for drugs, that kind of the overdose prevention sites, the supervised consumption sites, that's all very centrally located.
Toronto Public Health says paramedics have attended an average of 83 non-fatal and 5 fatal suspected opioid overdose calls per week this year.
A bylaw to protect tenants from bad faith run evictions is being discussed at City Hall today.
Yeah, the Planning and Housing Committee is considering a measure that would require landlords to show proof they need to do extensive renovations that require tenants to leave the residence. They need to acquire a building permit from the city, which would allow city officials to have more oversight over evictions.
When people are rent-evicted out of their apartments and the rent goes up 2 to 3 times, that's very difficult for that tenant to find another place to live. Also, that means that an affordable housing unit has been taken out of the system. it would be impossible, and it has been impossible, for the city to build affordable housing as fast as tenants are being rent-evicted from affordable housing.
It's about not following the law. It's about illegality. It's so sue me, catch me if you can. It's a completely deplorable practice. StatsCan says now 10% of renters say they're being evicted through this process of demolition and rent-eviction. The province has let us down. Tenants who go to the Landlord and Tenant Board will say, the Landlord and Tenant Board is letting us down. I have taken tenants to court, and they will say the judges have let them down. The city has to act, and the city can act.
I represent low-income tenants that are facing eviction. Since 2021, our clinic has seen a 35% increase in calls relating to rent evictions. If things don't change, we anticipate that number will increase to 40% by the end of this year. Rent evictions are no-fault evictions. These are tenants who work hard, they pay their rent, and they are simply trying to make ends meet in one of Canada's most expensive cities and housing markets. They're being kicked out because this method is one of the easiest ways for landlords to remove long-term tenants and then hike up the rent.
We all know we're in a housing crisis. The Wellesley Institute calculated that Toronto loses 26,000 affordable housing units every year due to neglected repairs, rent evictions, dem evictions, and more. And that's disgraceful. We also know that from 2017 to 2022, there were 950 N13 filings at the Landlord and Tenant Board, which are for demolitions and renovations.
The plan was approved at today's committee meeting and will go to City Council next.
Well, we are getting reaction today to, and you're not going to like this, buses replacing the Spadina streetcar later this month. That means traffic on that stretch is about to get worse.
Yeah, not exactly ideal. So starting June 23rd, there will be no streetcar service between Spadina Station and Queens Quay. Buses will be running instead. The TTC says work is being done to upgrade the streetcar's overhead electrical system and to renew tracks along that stretch. And that work is expected to continue until December.
This is work that's incredibly important for our infrastructure to make sure that it's kept in a state of good repair, doing any overhead and upgrades that we need to do. But importantly, there's also other work that's being done. Toronto Water has some work being done in the area. There's some cityscape work that's being done for public realm. So it's a coordinated effort, really, that encompasses quite a few different things.
Not that congested early in the morning. Yeah, so I don't mind. And I'd rather it get fixed. Plus, we're going to get the other additional platform at Spadina. Like, we need that.
Yeah.
So it's a sacrifice for, 6 months or so. We'll be all right.
I prefer bus.
You prefer the bus?
Yeah.
Can you tell me why?
Because streetcar, if it stop, the rest of the streetcar stop. The bus can go.
I definitely won't walk. For me, I typically go early enough in the mornings that I can dodge most of the traffic. But if anything, I'll just walk down to Osgood and then take the subway. So I don't know if it'll just redirect traffic in another direction.
I know this is really important work, but it is going to hurt.
Oh my gosh, yeah, not looking forward to that. Okay, time now is 5:13, 30 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Coming up today is Tax Freedom Day, the day when Canadians start working for themselves. Stay with us.
Welcome back. The province has announced the next phase of construction on Ontario's first small modular reactor.
This will be the first nuclear reactor of its kind in the G7, and it's being built at the Darlington site in Clarington. These types of reactors are capable of generating about a third of the power as a traditional nuclear reactor, but have the benefit of having a smaller footprint and being able to be constructed off-site and assembled later. Main preparation on that site is now underway.
It may be the early days for me in this ministry, but what has become already abundantly clear is that we must act with urgency and responsibility to meet this serious, if existential challenge for Ontario families and businesses. And it's why my mandate is to scale up and to build upon our plan, an ambitious plan to produce clean and affordable energy to fuel our growth now and well into the future.
Lecce also announced a deal with Romania worth about $360 million that leverages Ontario's nuclear power expertise to help refurbish an aging nuclear plant in that country.
A new report says provinces need to halt natural gas expansion and invest in electrification if they want to keep home heating reliable and cost-effective. Now, the Canadian Climate Institute warns governments could be on the hook for billions of dollars in underused and overbuilt gas infrastructure. The report says for the country to hit its legislated target of net zero emissions by 2050, there needs to be a dramatic increase in electric building heat and a declining use of gas. The report's lead author says provinces must equip regulators with the tools to face the energy transition head on.
Well, today is Tax Freedom Day. It's the day when Canadians start working for themselves, not the government. The study from the Fraser Institute says it took the first 164 days of this year to bring in enough money to pay the tax burden up front, including federal, municipal, and provincial taxes. In 2024, the average Canadian family with 2 or more people will pay nearly $66,000 in total taxes.
It's 5:17, 30 degrees, feeling like 34, though. This is Live at 5.
Coming up, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau met with the Ukrainian president on the sidelines of the G7 summit in Italy. We'll have more on that coming up. Welcome back. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on the sidelines of the G7 summit in Italy.
Now, the meeting comes as Canada and other G7 nations agreed to a $50 billion loan to help Ukraine in its fight against Russia. A senior government source says Ottawa is prepared to contribute $5 billion toward the loan that would use Russia's frozen central bank assets as collateral. Leaders are also discussing the possibility of confiscating the Russian assets entirely, but so far lack the political will from allies. During today's meeting, Prime Minister Trudeau reinforced Canada's ongoing support for Ukraine.
We've been talking about the need to go after some of the Russian assets and the Russian profits particularly, and the fact that we came to a consensus today on $50 billion worth of direct support for Ukraine, that the G7 and allies are going to be backstopping. Canada is actually the first country to announce $5 billion of that will be a Canadian contribution, because we know how important it is to make sure you have the tools to continue to defend not just your country, but all of our democracies and the principles of the rules-based order.
Thank you, your team, and of course all the Canadians. Thanks your people that you supported our people from the very beginning of this full-scale invasion of Russia. And of course you are right about assets. This question was on the table from the very beginning of the war, but you've been the first country who began to move it. Thank you for your loud voice, and for today we are very close for this decision about $50 billion. They will help Ukraine not only on the battlefield, also in reconstruction. Thank you so much.
U.S. President Joe Biden also met with his Ukrainian counterpart on the sidelines of this summit in Italy. Biden and Zelensky signed a 10-year bilateral security agreement. The deal aims to commit future U.S. administrations to support Ukraine.
The summit is also focusing on global conflicts, the spread of artificial intelligence, and on African issues, particularly concerns about increasing migration to Europe. Perennial issues such as climate change and China will also be discussed.
Pope Francis will meet with the leaders of the United States, Ukraine, France, and India on the sidelines of the G7. Francis, who in January warned against the perverse dangers of artificial intelligence, is set to take part in leaders' talks on the new technology on Friday. He is the first pope to take part in G7 discussions.
Meanwhile, Defense Minister Bill Blair announced today that Canada is going to ship decommissioned rocket motors to Ukraine. Minister Blair is in Brussels to attend a meeting of the Ukraine Defense Contract Group, a coalition of more than 50 countries aimed at coordinating military aid to the embattled nation.
It's 5:23, 30 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
Coming up, American burger chain Shake Shack officially opens for business in Toronto. Here's a live look. Lots of lines there all day today. More on that coming up after the break. American burger chain Shake Shack has opened its first location in Canada right here in Toronto at Yonge Dundas Square, and people have been lining up all day to try it out.
And our very own Sija Liu is inside checking it all out. What have you tried, Sija?
Oh, Lena, I had a bit of everything. I just had the portobello burger, which was such a surprise. There was melted cheese inside the burger, so the best veggie burger you could really ask for. I obviously had the classic smash burger. I had a taste of the maple milkshake that is exclusive to this Toronto location. So the people waiting in line, they definitely are waiting for a very good reason. I mean, the closest Shake Shack before this location opened was the one in Henrietta, New York, that is outside of Rochester, a 2.5-hour drive from downtown Toronto. But now this new location is right here at Yonge and Dundas Street. Now you can get the crinkle fries here, the smash burger, as well as some exclusives to the Toronto location, like I just mentioned. The maple syrup milkshake, the s'mores concrete, these are all new to this location. Now the doors opened at 11 a.m., but people were lined up since 6 o'clock this morning. Shake Shack actually hired some entertainers, some rappers, some jugglers to entertain people in line as they waited for the food. We spoke with some people in line today. Here's what they had to say. Take a listen.
Ever since we found out they're opening up specifically today, so we're like, okay, why not? Let's just go. We had a free day, nice weather. Why not, right?
It was good. I just loved it when I was in New York. Simple, delicious. The milkshakes are the bomb. So yeah, I loved it.
I never had Shake Shack. I'm from the U.S., so this is actually the first time I'm trying Shake Shack. And just so happens to open up right now, so I'm going to see how it is, and hopefully it's some good food.
The Shake Shack employees here tell us they get a lot of requests to open up new locations in other countries, but the number one request they got by far was Canada's. And as you can see, the demand is obviously here. And exclusive to the Toronto location are some items that they say are sourced 100% Canadian, from the dairy to beef to the chicken. They really wanted to have a Toronto touch here. Even some of the tables are made from Canadian maple trees itself. We spoke with Michael Kark, the president of global licensing at Shake Shack, earlier today. Here's what he had to say about the Canadian expansion for the brand.
We're just pinching ourselves. We can't believe how many people are already here waiting in line for Shake Shack. This has been a long time in the making. Canada's been on our radar for about 8 years now, and so today's a pretty special day.
So this is the first location to open. Overall, there will be 35 locations opening in the next 10 years. They can't say exactly when those locations will open or where, but we do know the first one is here at Yonge and Dundas Street, and it is coming in hot with a lot of people already lined up at the door. Back to you guys.
All right, so busy in there. Enjoy, Sija. Thanks so much. It's 5:29, 30 degrees out there. It's 30, feeling more like 34. You're watching Live at 5.
And speaking of that, there is active weather in parts of the province today, including tornado watches for parts of the GTA. More on that just ahead. Stay with us. GTA residents are being told to stay alert for rapidly changing conditions as severe thunderstorms sweep through the region, and a tornado watch has also been issued.
An argument on a TTC bus escalates to a stabbing. More on the latest violent altercation in our city coming up.
Plus, Canada's first Shake Shack location has officially opened right here in Toronto. We'll take you to the long queues at Yonge and Dundas in moments.
You're watching Live at 5. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Lena Latafat.
And I'm Lindsay Biscaya. Welcome to Live at 5. Well, there is active weather in parts of the province today, including tornado watches for parts of the GTA.
Environment Canada says conditions are favorable for severe thunderstorms tonight. Heavy rain, hail, and high winds all possible, and tornado watches are posted for Caledon, Northern York, and Northern Durham, as Dufferin County, Barrie, Collingwood, Orillia, Muskoka, and Peterborough also included. Environment Canada meteorologist Gerald Cheng is urging residents to have a plan in place as this tornado watch remains in effect.
We are seeing that there's a threat of hail, but 2 to 3 centimeters or so. So not really baseball size, not up to 7, but still, sizable hail that people could get hurt. As well, we are looking at heavy downpours possibly, but right now the risk with these storms is really the strong gusts that could reach up to 110 kilometers per hour and a risk of tornado.
We're monitoring this band really closely. The other thing with thunderstorms from an airport operations perspective is that it's quite hard to track exactly how this is going to impact us. It's a bit different than, say, a winter storm where we know we might be getting 20 centimeters. A band of thunderstorms could go a bit north of the airport, not trigger our lightning warning system. So it really depends right up to the minute of how this weather system is going to impact our operations. And we have to make decisions in real time to make sure, number one, that everybody at the airports out on the apron stays safe, but also we get people moving as quickly as possible.
And 2 15-year-old boys are facing charges after an argument on a TTC bus in the West End escalated into a stabbing.
Yeah, it happened around 6 last night at Park Lawn Road and Barry Road west of Royal York. Police responded to reports of a stabbing following an altercation. When officers arrived, they found one of the boys with a stab wound, and he was taken to hospital and was later placed in custody. The second boy left the scene but was later found by officers. He was taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Police say the bus operator suffered minor injuries when one of those teens ran away.
And for the latest on this investigation, let's bring in our crime analyst, Steve Ryan, for a closer look. So, Steve, it starts as an altercation, ends up with a stabbing on public transit. What do you make of this?
Yeah, very disturbing. We learned new information at about 10 to 5. The police put out a updated media release, and apparently one of the 15-year-olds boarded the bus with a knife and went to the back of the bus to confront a second 15-year-old who was already on the bus. So this certainly sounds like an isolated incident, nothing that appears to be a random stabbing. And then after the stabbing, the one young person fled. There was now 2 arrests made. So both of these young people have been charged. One of them has been charged just with assault with a weapon. And I say just because this, I assume, means that there was only one knife, because the other kid was charged with assault with a weapon plus carrying a concealed weapon. That's the guy that went on the bus with the knife. So one person charged with the assault with a weapon certainly suggests that there was only one weapon. Obviously, the knife was taken off the aggressor, and then
So the other person stabbed this person back? Is that what you think?
That's what it sounds like based on the police report, yeah.
You say, this wasn't random, it sounds like, at this point. But we know oftentimes a lot of other people can be involved or injured, including that bus operator with injuries as well. I mean, what does that tell you about the state of TTC right now in terms of safety? Well,
the TTC, there's high traffic areas. So anytime you have a lot of people going through the same system on a yearly basis, you're going to get a lot of activity, assaults, mental health crisis, and other crises where people act out. In this particular case, I think this is just another one of those situations where there's a high traffic area, which is a bus. And with regards to the witnesses on the bus, they can certainly be traumatized by what they saw. Now, they are witnesses to a criminal offense, so they may be required to talk with the police or provide the information that they've seen. But there are also agencies in place. The police can direct these witnesses to victim services, who can direct them to other areas where they can get help for what they've witnessed and may be traumatized by it.
Steve, just yesterday, you and I were talking about a brawl involving 30 kids. These are kids, too. Is that concerning?
Yeah, it is concerning. And one of these young people was out on a fail to comply. He was charged with fail to comply with a release order, certainly suggesting that he was out on a criminal release for some other criminal matter. So, yes, at some point you have to say enough is enough, but you need to weigh the Youth Criminal Justice Act with penalties. So you don't want to demoralize kids by giving them a life sentence with regards to a punishment, but you've got to weigh the safety with the city as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, CP24's crime analyst Steve Ryan joining us live once again. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Steve. It is 5:36, 30 degrees in the city. Factor in the humidity. It's feeling more like 34. Let's get a check on that drive home. Adjoa standing by with the latest.
I am, and still watching problems which have been impacting the commute all afternoon long for a good chunk of the afternoon. This is the eastbound lanes of the 401. Just as you make your way past Avenue Road, 2 center lanes still out following this collision. They might even have an additional lane, but this tree is blocking it, so I can't really tell. But what I can see is another problem further east on the 401 in the collectors at Leslie. Collectors at Leslie. It is a stalled vehicle that does have the left lane. Now, because of both of these issues, traffic not moving from before Dixie, DVP continues to move slowly, pretty much off the Gardner up to the 401, and the Gardner itself jammed as you make your way out of and head into downtown. Again, if you are making around either of these routes on the Gardner, just definitely make sure your shades are available. Sunshine blinding the drive. On city streets, crews on scene of an ongoing collision. It is on Dundas, right at Manning. I'll send it back to you.
Okay, thanks, Adjoa.
Welcome.
Police have released more information on the investigation into a fatal stabbing at an Etobicoke home earlier this year.
It happened in the Eglinton and Kipling area just after 2 p.m. on April 18th. When officers arrived, they located an elderly male victim with injuries. He was later pronounced dead. The suspect was arrested at the scene, and today, police identified the victim as a 90-year-old man, 90-year-old Antonio Alonzi. Investigators also announced that 32-year-old Massimo Alonzi is facing second-degree murder charges. Police say the suspect is the grandson of the victim. The motive behind the fatal stabbing still under investigation.
And a registered massage therapist in Milton is facing a charge of sexual assault. Halton police arrested 37-year-old Stinderpal Singh Gill of Brampton. He's also known to clients as Joey. A woman told police she was sexually assaulted during a recent massage at Massage Addict on Louis St. Laurent Avenue in Milton. Investigators believe there could be more victims here, and they say the accused has worked at other massage studios in Halton, Peel, and York, in addition to seeing clients at his home in Brampton.
A warning tonight from police after 3 people died from suspected overdoses in the same area of the city within days of each other. Police say they responded to 4 overdose calls in the area of Dufferin and Eglinton between Sunday and Tuesday. 4 people had consumed a quantity of an unknown narcotic, which police suspect is an opioid. 3 of them later died. Police fear there may be more of this drug on the streets, and they're reminding anybody who uses drugs to not take them alone and just to be extremely cautious. Zoe Dodd, co-organizer of the Toronto Overdose Prevention Society, says the drug supply in the city is very toxic, especially when it comes to fentanyl.
The number of deaths and overdose deaths has not been slowing down in the city of Toronto, and perhaps the division in that area wanted people to be alert, although Dufferin and Eglinton is a neighborhood that historically has had a number of overdoses and overdose deaths. Could be the batch that's there. It could also be the fact that that neighborhood in particular doesn't have a lot of services. There isn't a supervised consumption site for anyone to go to. There isn't drug checking in that neighborhood. So everything for drugs, that kind of the overdose prevention sites, the supervised consumption sites, that's all very centrally located.
Toronto Public Health says paramedics have attended an average of 83 non-fatal and 5 fatal suspected opioid overdose calls per week this year.
5:40, 30 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
Coming up, we're getting reaction today to buses replacing the Spadina streetcar later this month. We'll have the details on that for you after the break. Welcome back now to some less than ideal news. We're getting reaction today to buses replacing the Spadina streetcar later this month.
Yeah, drivers are not going to like this. Starting June 23rd, there will be no streetcar service between Spadina Station and Queens Quay. Buses will run instead. The TTC says work is being done to upgrade those streetcars' overhead electrical system and to renew tracks along that stretch. That work is expected to continue until December.
We always budget in some extra time because, these projects can get complicated. There can be unforeseen things that pop up. We've built in a bit of a buffer, that's fair to say. We know that some of our other projects we've been able to finish a bit earlier. Some projects go a bit later. We've built in a buffer on this one. We're hoping to get it done before the deadline in December, but that is the realistic timeline that we've set. But that allows for the work as well as the testing and commissioning that we have to do once we get the streetcars back in service. So we have to make sure they're able to run. There are no deficiencies in the work.
I guess it will make a big difference. Will make a big change. Do you think it'll be busy on roads down here? More buses along Spadina at a time when it's already pretty busy? It's already pretty busy, yeah.
If it has to be done, then it has to be done. And then we just have to cope with it. And that's about it. That's how life is sometimes. Not always get what you want, but then you just have to accept some things.
Just have to tolerate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Will you then take the bus?
If I have to, then I have no choice. If I need to get where I need to go.
I'll set the bus because that's what we have. The transportation we have, we don't have cars, so we have to take the bus.
A proposal to better protect tenants from bad faith rent evictions was discussed at City Hall today.
The Planning and Housing Committee considered a measure that would require landlords to show proof they need to do extensive renovations that require tenants to leave the residence. They'd need to acquire a building permit from the city, which would allow city officials to have more oversight over evictions.
This community, those who represent renters and councillors that have been working on this has been 5 years. And I would agree with you, Marcia. 5 years, now it's time. Let's get this done in a way that will protect tenants in the City of Toronto, protect affordable rental stock in the City of Toronto. Both of those things would do a great job and go a long way in our city.
Toronto has been studying and consulting on this issue since 2019. That's when I joined Acorn. How much longer do tenants in this city have to wait? How much longer do people have to be rent-evicted? How many people have been rent-evicted since 2019? How many more will be rent-evicted before the city finally does something?
The plan was approved at today's committee meeting, and it will now head to City Hall for final approval.
Time now is 5:45, sitting at 30 degrees, feeling like 34, though. This is Live at 5.
Coming up, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh says an explosive report on foreign interference shows a number of MPs have knowingly provided help to foreign governments. This after we heard from Elizabeth May. We'll have more coming up. Welcome back. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh says a report on foreign interference shows a number of MPs have knowingly provided help to foreign governments.
Singh says he was alarmed to learn that the report details what he called unethical and even illegal behavior by some parliamentarians. He also noted that politicians at all levels of government have benefited from foreign interference. Singh said the report also stated that he had been a target of foreign interference, but he didn't provide further details on that.
Today, Canada is vulnerable to foreign interference, and this weakens our democracy and the confidence of Canadians. I believe we must find a way to let MPs who are named in this report know that we know what they're up to. I believe this can be done in a way that doesn't compromise national security. If there continues to be no consequences for MPs who knowingly help foreign governments act against Canadian interests, we will continue to be an easy target.
So hearing from Singh, that's the latest development tonight. Last week, the intelligence watchdog said in a public report that some MPs wittingly assisted the efforts of foreign states to meddle in Canadian politics. Just a few days ago, we heard from Elizabeth May, a leader of the Green Party, though, and she says a former MP should be investigated for foreign interference. But according to her, she also said she saw no evidence that traitors are currently sitting in the House of Commons after reading that report.
Interesting. Time now is 5:50, sitting at 30 degrees. This is Live at 5.
And we'll take you live to Edmonton next, where the Oilers are getting ready for Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Final, their first one on home ice. Well, foodies are certainly going to love this. American burger chain Shake Shack has opened its first location in Canada, right here in our city at Yonge Dundas Square, and it's been busy all day. People have been lining up, some as early as 6 a.m. this morning.
Yeah, and we're going to go live now to CP24's Sijaloo, who is there in the crowds, not only in the crowds, but trying all of the food. Wow, look at that. Sija, you've got a lot going on where you are, beautiful murals on the walls, and just packed in there. What are people saying?
Yeah, people have been enjoying it. It's been a great time here. And like you see the murals on the wall. It's a packed place. People have been lining up here since 6 in the morning. And this place didn't open until 11 a.m. And they got to try some really cool items that are exclusive to Toronto. 90% of the menu are the items you can get in America. But 10%, like the maple syrup milkshake, are items you can get only here in Toronto. And I have some guests here with me, first-time customers to Shake Shack. We have Emma, her cute dog Pablo, and Rob. So Emma, what did you get today?
I got a burger, like a shake burger with lettuce wrap because I'm celiac.
And what brought you guys in, and what is your review? Would you recommend it to your friends?
I would 100% recommend it. My review is an 11 out of 10. It's really good here.
Talk about the whole experience. So you heard about this, you came down, you waited in line. What was the whole experience like?
So yeah, when I came here, they told us to go just over there to the another lineup because they didn't want to block off the roads. And then from there I got a token, and then we came back here, get the token, and then we waited in line for another 5 minutes. And then yeah, the line to get in, it was pretty good. It was overall about 15 minutes.
Pretty good. Well, patience paid off. Thanks so much, guys. I hope you enjoy your meal. And as you can see, the lineup is still pretty long at this hour, about a 45-minute wait. Shake Shack says they plan to open 35 locations in Canada over the next 10 years. They can't say exactly where, but we do know that this is the first one in Canada here at Yonge and Dundas Square, open now. Back to you guys.
Okay, CP24's Sija Liu live from Shake Shack. Thanks, Sija. Well, the Oilers will try to get back into the Stanley Cup final tonight at home for Game 3 against the Panthers.
We're joined live now by CTV Edmonton's Jeff Hastings. Jeff, great to see you. Thanks for joining us. The Stanley Cup final coming back to Edmonton for the first time in 18 years. It's been a long time. How has the city been preparing, and are they ready?
Oh, they're ready. They've been ready for 17 years and about 363 days since the last one. So the Oilers are everything in this town right now. Everybody's breathing Oilers hockey. It's everywhere you go. It's absolutely electric. Kids' sporting events are being canceled when the games are on so that everybody can watch. The city is firmly behind this team everywhere you go, not just inside the arena, but outside as well. Tens of thousands of people watching every game and cheering the team on. It's been a lot of fun. The city's having a great time.
The city really preparing and really behind this team, Jeff, but also I find this has become, for some people at least, Canada's team, right? I mean, a lot of people cheering for Edmonton, although I have seen some statistics that say that the team that wins Game 1 of the final series usually takes it. So, I mean, can they do this? Can they come back and win tonight?
It's even lower if you look at the team that wins the first 2 games of the series. So absolutely, the Oilers can do that. The fans believe it, and the team believes it as well. If you look at Games 1 and 2, Game 1, they ran into an extremely hot goalie, Sergei Bobrovsky, stood on his head and denied the Oilers that win. And then in Game 2, the Oilers hit 3 posts, so a quarter of an inch or so away from it being a very different game and a very different series. So there's belief in this town right now.
And as Lindsay said, this has really kind of become Canada's team, for some people at least. With that, I'll ask you, have you met fans from other parts of the country?
Survives a check from Bouchard, they score!
Absolutely. I don't know about Canada's team. Some people take offense to that. You know, people in Vancouver who, there's quite a rivalry suddenly after the last series. But, I'm sure not everybody in Toronto is cheering for them. But I should point out that we've met a couple of fans in Edmonton from Toronto, people that have come to the city and suddenly they've decided that they love the Oilers. And now they're on the bandwagon. They're cheering for the Oilers, and they're having a great time.
All right, we'll have to see what happens tonight when puck drops. Jeff, I also appreciate you throwing in that little belief there. Us in Toronto appreciate that. That is CTV Edmonton's Jeff Hastings joining us live. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks. Have fun tonight. Well, speaking of sports, it was on this day, 5 years ago, that the Raptors stunned the basketball world and won the NBA championship.
The Toronto Raptors are the 2019 NBA champions.
Toronto beat the two-time defending champion Golden State Warriors in 6 games to win their first title, bringing the Larry O'Brien Trophy north of the border for the first time. Kawhi Leonard, who joined the team that season, was named the Finals MVP. I can't believe it's been 5 years.
So where were you on this day 5 years ago?
I was working in Peterborough. I remember seeing the parade from where I was at the time.
I remember being in Jurassic Park, covering it all. It was mayhem, but it was honestly the best time in the city.
Yeah,
a memory we'll never forget.
So much energy.
5:59, 30 degrees. This is Toronto's breaking news, CP24.
We're keeping an eye on some active weather in parts of the province today, including tornado watches for parts of the GTA.
Thank you for watching. CTV News at 6 is coming up next.